This is absolutely Essendon. So the Bombers held a special celebration this week pre-game, honouring the legendary 2000 Premiership team, a side that lost just one game all year to the Bulldogs. So fast forward 25 years and the symmetry is brutal. We've now lost eight straight and the Bulldogs just beat us by 93 points. It's like poetry, but the kind that makes you cry in the shower. Stick around though. Promises to be a fun episode. All right, we are here. We are back. We're not in the studio, so we're not feeling as comfortable as normal, but that might be a good thing. DT, are you keeping warm?
Yes, I am doing my very best to weather the brutal Melbourne winter that we're going through, made even more brutal by what's happening at the hangar.
Hmm.
Yeah, we've got a lot to unpack. Not much of it about the game, I would imagine. I don't think anyone really
Probably,
cares.
probably
Yeah.
not. I did a cold plunge this morning, and that was more enjoyable than watching the game last night.
Shrinks up the family jewels, doesn't it?
Yeah. And
Really does.
not starting with the lot, may I
Well,
say.
I can't comment, although
No,
you've
no,
been
and I'm glad you can't.
you
Anyway,
have issued a few. Um, no, look, it was a 93 point loss. I think it was the only time or the first time in the history of this once great football club where we've lost three games in one season by 90 points or more. That is even our 2016 season when we had the 34 players suspended after that Asada disaster.
yeah.
Uh, we weren't as bad. So this is as bad as it gets. Obviously, there's some caveats around that with the injury list, but wasn't it just wonderful to see Jordan Ridley hobble off the ground with another hamstring injury? I mean, it's reached the point now where I'm just thinking, listen, anyone with a history of injuries at this club, let's just get rid of them. I mean, I love those guys, don't get me wrong, but there's clearly a bigger problem, and I think it's time for us to make some really hard decisions
No,
around
but yeah,
these sort of things.
I know. A lot of people are reacting like that and saying, well, even put him on the slate. Look, we would never have dreamed of that. Never have dreamed of that a year ago. But given the magnitude, the number of injuries, like maybe not his fault. And this is what we don't know. We need to get to the bottom of that, don't we?
Look, it may
Because
not be his fault, but I think the damage is done. And that's the problem. I think the damage is done with Reed, with Zach Reed, with Jordan Ridley, with Darcy Parish, Kyle Langford. These guys are just in the medical rooms more than they are on the football field now. And, the more they keep doing it, the harder it is for them to ever get back to what they once were. And the tragedy for Ridley is he's still a relatively young guy.
yeah,
But I don't
he's
think any
26, right? Yeah.
Oh, look, is he that old? I don't know. I mean, he won the best and fairest in 21 when he'd only played about 20 odd games. So he could be up that range around 25, 26. But still, 5 or 6 years left in him. But I don't think he's got that. And that's the big concern now is that the impact, wherever these injuries are coming from, whatever's causing it, it's not so much of the issue now for some of these chronic cases. I just don't think they're ever going to get back to playing a full season. So do we take a punt on those guys and just imagine, look, they're good for 10 to 12 games a year? Or do we just double down on the rebuild and say, look, can we trade them? Can we get them an opportunity elsewhere? And perhaps look at rebuilding with some young kids, a little more durable than the current crop.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You might be right, but it just feels like now it's getting ridiculous. But yes, that was
Yeah.
heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, from the game, are you sure you don't feel like going through it quarter by quarter and just analyzing play by play?
Turnover by turnover.
I
No,
tell
I
you,
don't think so. I mean, look, I don't think there's much to really talk about. I think it was a demonstration of a football team full of young kids, unsure of what they're doing, without necessarily the physical capacity to match their opposition, just being taken apart one piece at a time. I don't think the Bulldogs ever really rolled us. They were just methodical and, they were putting on three or four goals more than us in a quarter. and that adds up to 90 plus points. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think we tried. I don't think there's any question about that. But the skills are not there. The understanding of the game plan, if such a thing exists, is not there.
yeah,
And I think we've got the same old passengers. I think, I'm going to point to guys like Redmond, McGrath, Perkins. These are the senior guys. Yeah, they weren't terrible, but they weren't good. And they're just soft. These guys are just soft.
yeah,
So we just have to get through this year. I mean, honestly, if ever there was a case for a mercy clause in the
yeah.
AFL, it's got to be Essendon this year. It's almost like just give these clubs their 4 points and let's get on with it. But
Yeah,
we've got what,
I think you're
five
right.
more games? Is it 4 or 5?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, like last night, we didn't even hold them at bay for more than 20 seconds. I think, Norton scored, I
No.
think, within
Well, I
20
mean, look,
seconds.
let me put it to you this way. Yeah, the umpires gifting Norton 2 free kicks in
Sure.
the first 2 or 3 minutes is like kicking the crutches out from underneath the polio victim when he's going up against Usain Bolt in 100 meters in the Olympic finals.
Yes.
It's not necessary and it's not fair. And to do that was just like, well, what chance are we ever going to have when the umpires were plucking them out of their backside? I mean, they were probably there, but come on, look at the opposition. We were
Yeah.
given no chance, and I think that was really the death
Yeah.
of the game in the first few
They
minutes.
would argue that's not their that's not their job. But I mean,
What, not to be subjective about the situation? Are you sure?
well, we'll get
Because
on.
I think you're going to talk a little bit about that, right?
Well, I will bring up one or two things that have been yes in the news this week. But yeah, and I mean, but the thing to think about is the Bulldogs have been called flat track bullies, downhill skiers, whatever the term is. But they I don't think they've beaten anyone in the eight. They're barely in the eight themselves. Um, but that's what they did to us. It just makes it hurt even more. I mean, I'm
What?
dreading the Geelong game. Sydney
Oh
won't be
God.
much fun either. Gold Coast have still got the game against us up our sleeve. You're right. We need the mercy rule. And yeah, I mean, I watched the press conference and Brad Scott, he's struggling for material. And we know what that feels like.
Welcome
Um,
to our world.
He's really struggling, and he should just get a couple of writers to prepare the material for him because we know what the results will be. Just, just, just have it ready. Just have the material ready,
Give us
and
a
then
call,
that way,
Scotty.
you're just not clutching. You're just not clutching for just the cliches. Unfortunately, it's tough. It's tough for him.
Yeah, I mean, what can he say? I mean, what can you say?
Last
Typically,
night he ran with, it's a privilege. I remind the players it's a privilege to play AFL.
they didn't play AFL last night. What's
Yeah.
he talking about? Did he actually say, "Look, I might have something to do with this"?
No,
No.
but he was a little bit twitchy in his body language as he was talking, which suggested that yes, I think I've got a lot to do with this. If
Right.
you want to read the body language.
Look, I didn't watch it. I'm not interested in hearing him waffle on. I've heard him do that too for too many games now. It's the same line that comes out. The problem with our football club is no one is prepared to take the blame. No one's prepared to stand up and go, you know what, it's on us. The problems with the injuries, the problem with the player list, the problem with the recruiting, the problem with the hanger, the problem with everything. No one is prepared to actually say, you know what, we kind of fucked this up, guys. Sorry about that. Sorry to subject you to 25 years of rubbish. And I've never heard anyone from that football club come out and say to us, the fans, you deserve better. And that's the fact of the matter is that the club doesn't exist without its supporters, and we deserve better than this. We've put up with this for way too long. I know there's going to be some bleeding hearts out there who are going to say, oh, hang on, you can't blame the club for the injuries. Well, maybe you can, because it
Yeah.
happens to us year in, year out. And I don't see it happening at Geelong, and I don't see it happening at other well-run football clubs.
Yeah.
We're not a well-run football club, and David Barham seems to think that he's the sort of messiah. I'm afraid I don't see anything that suggests that he will be. So, and I've got a few ideas on what we need to do, which perhaps, if you be so good as to remind me later on, I'll go through a few of those
All
things.
right. Okay. Let me write that down. Yeah, well, I mean, what's interesting though is that the CEO, Craig Vozzo or Vozzo, however he decides
Well, he's Italian, so
to
it's
pronounce
definitely
it.
not
Well, I
like
would have thought
Spanish.
so, but everyone else seems to butcher it. But he's respected as a footy CEO. So there's this opinion that, it's being steered properly now. But I agree with you. The draft, everyone's focusing now. Anyone in Bomberland is focusing on the draft period now and who are we going to get and how much are we going to pay and, how are we going to boost our lineup. But that's great to get, more killer and less filler on the field. But yeah, I agree with you. It needs to be off the field as well. And I'm seeing other clubs sort of make some appointments. I think Carlton have engaged a highly respected CEO. Is it the Graham Wright?
Graham
Is
Wright.
that his name?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so
Yep.
these
Collingwood.
are people that don't muck around, take no prisoners, and yeah, I'd love to think that that's what we had from top to bottom because that's what it's going to take to get out of this mess. I mean, looking at those players that played in that, 2000 premiership side before the game. I mean, again, sorry, all the younger people watching this, I know you hate it when we just keep referring to the past and, that the past glory. It is annoying. I agree with you. But boy, just looking at those guys and, a lot of them just look like they could really still lay a decent
Smoking.
tackle.
The young people watching this show are in their 50s.
Probably.
I mean, I've seen the demographics. A lot of the
No,
guys that comment
no.
say, "Oh, I was watching the Bombers back in 1968."
Last week we had some heartbreaking comments because we do read them all. There was a 16-year-old guy just pulling his hair out, just, being made fun of by his friends. That's right. Being made fun
Well,
of by his
I
friends.
tell you what, tell him to contact us, and we'll
We'll
sort
sort
that
them
out
out
for
for
him.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come around.
Just approach us anytime. Yeah, because we're real tough guys. Hey, we did a stint with the Comancheros.
Hey,
And then there was the other guy whose heart was broken because his 19-year-old daughter broke the news to him this year that she's going to go for her boyfriend's team and just push the Dons to the side.
well,
So we do have some younger people in the audience, but yes, I take your point. We probably skew a little older.
you talk about Craig Votso and being a football CEO. He's never done the job before. I think it's worth pointing that out.
But
Sure,
no,
he's
but
got a
hang on.
football background, but
Was he at West Coast during
he
some sort of
was.
glory period or not?
He was I think he was an assistant recruiting manager or a recruiting list manager at West Coast. I think he
Oh,
did a bit of
okay.
time with Adelaide as well, but he's not run a football club. So you've got the whole sort of AFL industry to go out and choose from. And no disrespect to Craig Fotso, because I do hear good things about him. I think he's probably just sort of living under the sort of reign of terror that is David Barham. But there's Graham Wright going to Carlton, and Carlton prior to that had what's his name from the Geelong former CEO? Is it Ron Cook or
Oh,
whoever it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
who's leaving? All absolute elite level football administrators, and we go for a guy who's sort of basically on work experience. He's on probation still, so let's see how it goes with Craig Votso. I'm very pleased at least that he did have some influence in bringing Matt Rosa, whose first draft last year seemed to be very successful, and we've seen proof of that with the players that have come into the team this year.
Yes.
Uh, and we talked about how important Matt Rosa will be coming into the draft and the trade period later on this year. But there's still a feeling that it's a boys' club. I still feel that down at Essendon, they're just happy putting a bit of coin in their pocket, enjoying the president's lunches at the MCG and at Marvel, and don't really have a bit of fire in the belly to sort of go, you know what, this is not good enough. If we give ourselves a year, if we don't sort it out, we'll hand it over to someone who we think can. This will keep going on. I mean, extending Brad Scott's contract for a fourth year on the grounds that, well, that's what stable clubs do. I don't buy that. Stable clubs are clubs that win premierships and win finals. We're not that. So anyway, look, I've said enough about that, but I do
Yeah.
feel that there's we're just in a cycle of mediocrity, and something's got to change.
Mm.
Something's got to happen to break that cycle.
Well, I might start with a new strength and conditioning position. Apparently, they know who they want or who they're going after. I don't know who that
Hulk
would be.
Hogan. Hulk Hogan is what I'm hearing.
Oh, mate, don't. Why? There's a lot of
What?
people. There's a lot of people mourning.
What? What are you talking about? Has Hulk left us?
Mate, a lot of people wouldn't like you
We'll
jesting
get
over
Ozzy Osbourne in at
the
least
great.
for the
Oh,
pre-game music.
all
But
right,
what do
okay.
you keep
Yeah,
sniggering for? What's
and
going
the
on?
guy from the Cosby Show. Yeah, all right, there
Oh,
you go.
don't
We've done
say it.
the whole
Tell me it's not
trifecta.
so.
All right, okay.
What? Not
Apologies
not
to
not.
anyone.
Oh,
Apologies to anyone that may be hurt by such insensitive comments. But yes, anyway, let's hope that they resolve that position soon. And on that note, I told you during the week I saw an interview with Andrew Russell, that was the high performance guy at Carlton.
Carlton. Yep.
Yeah, during the week on
Very
that.
highly credentialed.
Yes, on the Code Sports podcast, he just mentioned something interesting that it was, so the interview was John Ralph and I think Glenn McFarlane, Code Sports. You can easily find it. Carlton let him go last year. He may have been a scapegoat. I'm not sure, but he has pedigree, he has form. He was at Hawthorn during their sort of three-peat, or maybe even been the fourth premiership. I think it was at Port Adelaide before that, also a premiership. But he got his start at Essendon back in 1998. He was a young 21-year-old whippersnapper, and Kevin Sheedy said, "Hey, why don't you come down to the club and work on our guys?" So he joined the team, and in fact did so well that I think it was the end of '99. Port Adelaide came sniffing and offered him a role, but he rejected that because the Dons had just lost. It was a bitter loss to Carlton. Sorry to bring that up, everyone. And he felt that Sheedy had everyone primed to absolutely win the flag in 2000. There was no way they were going to let it drop. So he stuck around for that. But I think the following year, yes, he went and took their money and said, "Okay, I'll come over now." But what he just said something quite interesting, and he said, "In all my time and all the clubs I've been with, I have never seen a team want to hurt each other more at training." He
Right.
just said you had likes of Solomon, and the others, and he just said they really went so hard at training that when game day came around, that was like easy. It was almost just a step down from that, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Given,
Well, was there ever a more brutal team in this competition? Yeah, unfortunately, they never had the multiple premierships that they probably deserved. But that one year, other than the little hiccup against the Bulldogs, they were murdering teams. I mean, I think their percentage was 160 that year,
yeah,
which is unheard of.
yeah,
And you look at the lineup when it had guys like Dean Solomon, Mark Johnson, Jason Johnson, Dimmer, Damien Hardwick, even Matthew Lloyd was an absolute beast, and some of the sort of more elegant, skillful players like Mercury and Hurd were as hard as nails. So yeah, that side was tough, and they were incredibly skillful, but their core attribute was just their brutal strength. Their strength in the contest was unmatched.
yeah,
We're not in the same league as that with the current side. So if that guy was responsible for that team and the physical conditioning of that side, mate,
yeah.
I'd be rolling the red carpet out for him and getting him back at whatever cost.
Yeah, I think he's stepped away from footy at the moment, but I'm sure at the right price. But it does certainly sound like he's got the pedigree. Anyway, I just thought that was an interesting
Yeah,
anecdote.
yeah. Well,
Given,
it's clear to the because I noticed that during the week Essendon proudly announced that all of the coaches in place for 2026. So
yeah,
there's no change to the coaching lineup. So we've got the same coaching panel of Stanton, Hurley, Travis Cloak, yeah,
and
what else?
Jacobs.
Jan Siracusa and
Yeah,
yeah, the rest of them. So those guys have obviously ticked all the boxes. And it was Sean Murphy that was sort of given the thrown under the bus, maybe, I don't know.
yeah,
But either way, that's the core key position that has to now be filled is this strength and conditioning guy. So whoever that is, good luck. Welcome to the hangar.
yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be sitting there going, "Hang on, I've got 14 soft tissue injuries in the first 3 weeks. What happened?" It's the hangar. I'm telling you.
You get hanged. All right. So, look, I thought since we're not going to talk about the game anymore, maybe we just touch on some topical issues, and then we can
Okay, just one. Sorry,
circle
Smoking
back to
Joe.
your plan
One,
then.
one, one,
Yeah.
one quick comment on the game. I just want to doffs me hat to Sam Durham, if I could.
Oh, right.
And
Okay.
I just thought he was just fantastic in that game. Just his heart and commitment and effort
Yeah.
was just incredible.
Well,
And if we
yeah.
had 23 of him, we'd be top of the world, no question.
Yeah.
He was fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I totally agree. And just going back to my earlier point about what Andrew Russell said, Durham always looks like he's just looking to get physical, even if there's no one around him. It's like
Right.
he's just like he's inviting it.
Yeah.
It's just, it is. It's just heartwarming to see.
He never gives up. Never
But
gives up.
yeah, can we
Fantastic.
acknowledge? Can we acknowledge McMahon? I mean, even in these beltings, he's managed to score a couple of goals.
No, he's been promising, no question, in his second game, and
Yeah,
I think that yeah, look, to be fair, those young kids are doing all they can do,
yeah.
um, but it's very hard when you don't have that senior group of players that are just guiding you through it. I mean, they're out there on their own, and you've got a lot of princesses running around in ballerina shoes who are in the sort of senior cohort. So anyway,
Yeah,
enough said
yeah.
about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, shall we just touch on just some general news issues, just very quickly though. I want
Sure.
sort of fairly brief answers. Are you open to that?
I'm always open to it.
Can you
Set the
do a
bishop.
brief answer? All right.
I'll try. I'll try.
Okay. All right. So first of all, Stephen May getting 3 weeks for that incident during the week. What do you think? Right or wrong?
Wrong.
Yeah, I would agree. I
You'd
thought
want
you.
brief answers, right? It's wrong.
I thought you were going to say you don't care.
No,
Um,
I don't care, but I mean the problem is that it's just quickly on this because it's more about the AFL, right?
Yeah,
And they've
it
just
is. It's totally about the AFL. Totally.
this AFL under well, I guess it kind of started under McLaughlin and then it's now in full flight under Dillon. This they have an agenda, and it's got nothing to do with our great game. Their agenda is to convert this into a non-contact sport. Um, in a manner that's just sort of creeping in under our consciousness. And if we don't stand up as a supporters of this game and say, you know what, give us our game back, leave it alone, go away, you silly muppets. If we
Right.
don't start to make that voice heard, we're going to end up with something which is about as physical as netball. And no disrespect to netball players.
I love a bit
Maybe
of
go
love a
on.
bit of netball. But no, okay. So the AFL would say, listen here, Nuffy. All right. Our great game is only supported by these broadcast rights that are propping up every club, even the terrible ones. And we're not going to have that money if the lawsuits are going to outweigh that from head injuries in about 6.7 years.
All
So
right.
sorry,
So
but you don't get it.
let me just put. I'm going to put a. I'm glad you brought that up. That is the biggest, you know, candy sell that the AFL's ever pulled off. They're trying to convince us that they're going to be slammed into the turf under class action lawsuits. Now, that's just not going to happen. And I'm not going to go into the legal reasons why, but I'm
No,
just going to say that the people that are affected by, the problems with concussion, I'm not saying that doesn't exist. That is a real thing. But they're players that were playing football in the 80s and 90s, right? And if you were playing football back in the 80s and 90s, no one gave a stuff about your head injury. It's a very, very different world we live in today. And players, there was no such thing as a concussion test on the field or off the field back in the 80s. There was no automatic 12-day off if you were concussed back in the 80s and 90s. There was no care, there was no responsibility of care in respect to that condition. That is in the game today. And I tell you, players will not be playing with long-term chronic concussion issues going forward. We know with our own Nick Cox, he had to go in front of a medical panel just to give him the right to continue playing. It was never going to be his choice. So this issue about class actions, there may be some that arise out of the era of the 80s and 90s, but I'm going to put it bluntly, most of those guys will be gone in the next 15, 20 years. And this is not going to become an issue. No, I'm sorry, but that's the truth.
well,
It's about,
they would
go on.
argue to counter that there's been some more recent examples. Yes, to what you're saying, in the 80s, it was just anything go. It was the Wild West. Agreed. But there's been a few players very recently played the game within the last 10 years, experiencing what is it, CTU? What's it called?
CTE, CTE.
CTE.
But let's talk about Brayshaw from Melbourne.
Yeah.
He's not playing football anymore.
No, he's not.
What was the young lad that played at Collingwood, the fullback who was forced? He was retired under concussion rulings.
Yeah.
His name just slips my mind at the moment. And Nick Cox is another example. They're never going to get to the stage where their medical condition is at a point where it's so threatening
Yeah.
as it has been for players in the past. So that's my response to that.
All right.
But
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad this quick fire segment's really got legs. The uh, quick point, Harley Reid of West Coast. Okay. So the talk is that the sort of deals on the table are 1.7 million per year, 8, 9, possibly 10 years. Uh, would you open the checkbook for him?
Well, I'm going to let you answer this one because
Definitely not.
you're much better with money than me. So you tell
Definitely
me.
not.
You tell
No,
me.
I just feel like it's risk. The risk is to the downside, and B, I just think even though they don't say it subconsciously to the other players, it's deflating. So no, not in my team.
Fair enough. And I'm not going to argue with you. I would have thought at the beginning of this year he was probably a pretty good prospect, and you would be prepared to throw the kitchen sink at him. I'm not sure he's developing quite as well as we would have liked to have seen, although I still hear that Essendon's right into him. But from what you hear in the media, he's made it clear that he does not have any interest in going to a struggling club. That's sort of being leaked out now, probably from his management.
Yeah.
So I would think that it's going to be the Geelongs or Collingwoods that are going to be most likely the destination for Harley Reid if he does in fact leave the Eagles.
Apparently the Hawks are hot on him too. Okay. The the dissension rule. Don't know if you saw Freo versus the Pies last week. This was against a Freo player, a free kick awarded against him. He's looking up at the scoreboard just to sort of, quickly watch the replay. Just said, oh, outrageous 50 metres. Far too sensitive, the umpires. Surely that needs to be fixed. Does it not?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're hot and cold on this one. There was a time, I think it was about 2 seasons ago, when the Greater Western Sydney lost the game. I think Stephen Cornelio did the old what the with his
Yeah.
arms
Oh, that's right. And
and
it was all about how high
reversed
the
the gun.
arms. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of been swept under the carpet, and then for it to suddenly come out in that game, with a guy just like, hang on. Uh, what can you say? I mean, again, AFL, yeah, they've got their agenda up their freaking ass. That's what I reckon. Because look, where's the game's got to have characters. Do you remember Mark Jacko Jackson
Yes.
and Phil Carman and all of those guys?
Yeah.
Okay, they were probably idiots, but the game's just got no characters.
Yeah. It's a
There's
little.
just no one. No, who would you put it? Who would you say in the AFL today has that kind of persona? Remember the likes of yeah, probably the younger audience here isn't going to remember them, but the Jakovich brothers,
Yeah.
Alan
Yeah. Yeah.
Jakovich,
No, you're right. It's a little too
you know,
sanitized. But you ask
isn't it?
who? You ask who?
Dougie Hawkins.
Yeah.
There's no personalities.
You ask who in today's game. We'll come on to the next point. Toby Green at the halftime interview last night in the game, the GWS against the Suns, referred to Papley being overweight. Is that okay? Is that sort of personality okay or not on?
As long as he didn't say he was a gay overweight man, he's fine.
Right. Okay.
If he had dropped in the gay part, not that there's anything wrong with that, by the
Homophobic
way.
slur, no good.
Correct.
But fat
He would
shaming,
be.
okay.
It's in my world. You can be a fat ass and you're fine.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, I think with Papley, you can say anything really because, he's very lippy. And
But
so,
it's like Papley and Toby Green going head to head with sledges on the field. Now that's something I'd pay some money to see.
they should be mic'd up.
Yeah, that
Mm.
would be fun actually with those two guys. I mean, there's not a lot of IQ in on show, but I'm sure they'd have some nice little things to say. That's interesting.
All right. Okay.
Next, what else you got?
The next one, well, we covered Ridley actually because you already covered that in the
Oh,
in the
so what was the question about Ridley?
well, it was he's been struck down again. Does he get added to the players who are constantly getting injured in terms of the draft period?
Let him go.
Yeah,
Trade
all
him.
right. Okay.
No,
Jeez.
I mean
Jeez.
it. We've got
King
to
Jordan
start.
of Ridley. Can
Yep.
you just hear? Oh, we're losing the satellite in 7.5 minutes too.
All right. Okay.
So
No,
did you
look,
want to?
I said it before. I'm just going to say it again. I think we know now that these guys are just risk, risk, risk. And if they were playing in European football where they're getting paid mega millions, they do so many medical checks on those guys before they're signed up. If they're showing any inkling of having recurring injuries, it's a big no. You're not going to be transferred to our football club.
Yeah, right.
So look, I reckon Jordan Ridley is probably in our top three players when he's on song.
Yes,
But what's the
agreed.
point of having a Jordan Ridley when he's sitting in the medical rooms? And I think that question's got, we've got to start. If it was a one-off, maybe, but when you've got six players in your best 23 who you're paying $700,000 plus to, and they can't play a season of football,
Yeah.
you've really got to start to think, is this the right way to go forward?
Yeah. All right. Okay. Agreed. Now, did you have a 3 point plan that you wanted to cover off, or
Well,
do we need to
I
save that for
did.
another episode, separate
I
episode?
did. I'll do it really quickly. And here we go. This is if I was running that football club, and there is some chance I will be in the near future, but
Is
that's
that
up to
right?
you. That's up to you guys. Make Essendon great again.
Well, people did support that, and we said we'd do merchandise, and we
Yeah.
diddly
Then
squat.
life got in the way.
Yes, it did. All right.
So
I'm gonna try and resuscitate that. Okay.
first thing I'd do is sell the hanger. And you might think, what a stupid thing to say, and you'd probably be correct. But here's the thing, I would sell it back to the Australian government and let them turn it into their elite academy for Olympic athletes. A bit like the AIS in Canberra. They've
Right.
already got the Paralympians there. Make it an Olympic training venue. Get as much money out of that as we can, and let's go back to Windy Hill. Okay, point
All right,
two.
geez, there's the end of
Yeah.
Gout's career. But anyway, go on.
Well, gout's not a good thing to have if you're trying to be an Olympic runner.
All right.
Now then, point two, back to Windy Hill. I've been down to the RSCA park, whatever St Kilda calls their training venue. It's just got
Hmm.
such a fantastic setup for fans. There's heart and soul down there. For a club that hasn't had a lot of success, they really embrace their fans. Out at the hangar, they've got some Bunnings pop-up umbrellas out on the outer wing to protect people from the weather. It's just Essendon, really do better.
Oh, but
I'd go
the,
back.
the waterproof ones are an extra $40. I mean, settle down. They need money for the weights room.
So back to Windy Hill, redevelop it like they keep promising, turn it into an absolute fantastic fan experience there, state-of-the-art training facilities. People keep saying, oh, but the cricket club won't move. Okay, so Paul Little, who's just sold his home in Toorak for $130 million, sling the cricket club a couple of mil just to move to the park down the road. Come on. Let's
Yeah,
do something about that. The bowls club or the croquet club, do whatever we have to do. But let's go back to our heart and soul home. And I
yeah,
hope people are still watching because I'm sure a lot of our fans and viewers will be in total agreement. Next thing we're doing quickly, because I know we're running out of time, is we're going to
yeah.
blackmail the AFL into moving all of our home games get back to the MCG. None of this Marvel bullshit any longer. We'll play the interstate games there, Fremantle and Gold Coast and those clubs, but every Victorian game we play at the MCG
I
going forward.
totally support that. What do you think? What do you think it would take? Is that money?
I don't care what it takes, but let's get a club with the balls to go and say to the AFL, hey, you know what?
Yeah,
You looked after North, you looked after all the basket case, tin rattler clubs. We're not asking for money, we're not asking for draft priority picks, but we've been shit for a long time. We want to get good again. It's good for you if Essendon is strong. We go back to the MCG. My last point is I want to put an avenue of heroes outside Windy Hill along the street, yeah, Napier Street, wherever around the ground, which would feature all of our Brownlow medalists. So Bill Hutchison, Dick Reynolds, Gavin Wanganeen, James Hird, and just to stick it up the AFL, Joe
Joe
Watson as well.
Watson. Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, all right. Well, that is compelling. I tell you, that's quite the vision. You remind me of another DT who's just a little bit more famous, who lives in the United States, who lives in a large house that's painted white, and yeah, has Yeah, exactly. You
One.
remind me of him with that vision that you're selling.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm all for that. And yeah, I think something's got to happen. We've got to go to the right and not the left in
Yeah.
how we run our footy club.
Yeah,
That's
no,
it.
I hear you. That is that they are they all sound very doable. And
Well, I don't know, but there should be a vision. Someone's got to paint a vision for us. Where's that? You know how corporate settings companies, they always have these vision statements, which are largely hogwash. But in
I
this
could
case,
never work out the difference between a mission statement and vision statement. Remember that? It was
yeah, but
I
they
could
are
never do it.
different. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
oh, yeah, that,
I
yeah,
know why,
yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, we need a vision, and we've got to break the cycle. We've got to throw out anyone associated with the last 20 years should be gone, and we start again. We just have to. Yeah, we've got to start again. And the first thing we do is we bring the fans back to the club because we've put up with it for long enough. We need to get a little love now from this footy club.
Yes, I agree. Here, here. Amen. All
So,
of that.
can I just last thing I want to say for those who are going to come at us, oh, you cabbages, have you seen the injury list? This has nothing to do with that. All right, okay. We understand the injuries. We get that. We know that's why we're losing games. We're talking about the club in general. Okay.
Yes. All right. Okay. Okay. Let's leave it at that. Thanks again, everyone, for watching and hang in there.
Yeah.
That's all we can say.
Thank you very much. And guys, we're going to be doing it on this Zoom format for a little while. So
Yes.
unfortunately, that's the way it's going to go. But
Yeah.
hopefully, the
Yeah.
content is still somewhat helpful and enjoyable, therapeutic,
Hopefully.
whatever you want to call it.
But we got kicked out of our studio. Hopefully, we'll be back in there soon. All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Cheers. See
Bye
you
for
soon.
now. Bye.
Bye bye.